Yeah, you say New Edition. I almost started singing in my head.
Ah!
I was about to start singing Candy Rain, man. But no, I want to highlight another defensive player because I feel like, and it's going to be Chauncey Gardner. I feel like Chauncey Gardner Johnson. A lot of people are seeing the impact that he's obviously having on the field. Right, we're very happy to have him at safety. But one thing I think that us fans, especially, are not seeing is how well I feel like he's meshing with this team. Can
Oh,
you
no
kind of talk
question.
to me about how he's fitting in there and just having the addition of a personality like that and how it's kind of helped?
Quick Candy Rain reference. Devontae Smith listens to that pregame every game.
Oh,
So
really?
little
I didn't
little
know
little
that.
little note for you there too. So I look in the comment, Bradbury too. Yeah, it's not. I mean, that's what I mean. All these offseason moves. You can compare it in some ways to 2017, and I don't want to get into the whole how's this like the Super Bowl year, but that offseason, all the guys they brought in hit. And that's the way this offseason has been too. It seems like that CJ Gardner Johnson was meant to play in Philly. Okay.
Yeah.
Brings a lot of the Jalen Mills vibe with him to Philadelphia. But the thing is, he's matured in some ways where he was known as a talker. And I remember when the Eagles first traded for him, it was especially against the Bears that clip against Tariq Cohen doing the like,
Yeah.
how tall are you? And I forget which receiver it was that made him punch him. Like he wanted to lose that label. And he sees how the guys like Slay and Bradbury and Avante all carry themselves. And they're like, there's a way to have swag, but also be humble at the same time, so to speak. And that's what, and he's meshing well. It's not like he came in and was like, oh, I'm trying to find my way. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to fit with this defense. Like no, like he came in from day one and it was talking and making himself known. And the great thing about Sirianni is he wants guys to be themselves. Okay. The Eagles did a lot of work on CJ Gardner Johnson in the lead up to his draft. I mean, they were very interested in him. So it's not like they didn't know what they were getting. So you understand. And that's the biggest thing with at this point here, with any addition you're bringing in, the chemistry is so great in that locker room right now. You got to make sure you have someone who is going to mesh in and add to it, and not someone who would be a distraction. And I also don't think we realize how tough it's been for CJ, even though he played safety in college. I mean, he's been basically a nickel corner, his first 3 years in the league. So he's adjusting to the new position, and that's a lot of it is trying to figure out how to play from depth and understanding angles. And I think his game is going to continue to grow in the second half of the season as he's getting more and more acclimated. And that's why when you saw Maddox go down, there were some people who were like, okay, are you going to put CJ there because he obviously is an outstanding nickel corner? It's like, no, he's finally getting it at safety, deep safety. Let's, Josiah Scott, we can put him in there for a couple of games and hold down the fort. We don't want to ruin the development that CJ's had. So, Joe, I think you have probably a great point. It's the personalities of these guys, because it's funny because on the one end you have Slay, who is animated and came up with the Batman stuff and has always been a jokester, but I don't think people always knew how hard he studies the game, how much he respects the game, how much he loves the game of football. And I think maybe it's because he came from Detroit and was like, he never won in Detroit, so what is he going to bring to the table here? But the guys really look up to him, and that's why it meant so much to him when he was named a captain this season. And like Bradbury is like Mr. All Business. Like he doesn't say a word. It's the complete opposite. And now you're adding in a CJ Gardner Johnson who talks nonstop. It's usually I was going to the defensive back room always had to have a vibe to it. I think back like Lito was like the Slay and Sheldon was like the Bradbury, back in the day. It's you got to have that because it's a position where you're going to get beat. You're going to get beat, and it's going to be one-on-one, exposed for the whole world to see. People are going to talk trash. You got to have that mindset to be able to get past it. And you need to have that little bit of that, that swagger, that confidence about you. And CJ Gardner Johnson has it in droves. No question about it, Joe.
Definitely. And it's funny that you bring up Brown because I actually met him one day golfing. I met him at one of my jobs I worked at. 3 words he said to me. He said, hello and thank you. I was really proud of So it's funny.
That's him. That's what I'm saying. That if him and like Lito would be the opposite. Lito would be like partying and like, get into it with you. And, he'd be the guy you want to be hanging out with. And Sheldon Brown he's just all business until you're, catching a pass in the flat and your name is Reggie Bush and he goes through you like cardboard. But, it's probably because of that personality. It's like his game, I don't know, was always fully appreciated, but it was the yin and yang to what Lito had at the time, and I think Bradbury is the yin and yang to what Darius Slay, here in Philadelphia. So, but I mean that again, Howie did a masterful job of addressing every position that you had questions about. Wide receiver, check. Safety with CJ, cornerback, line. It was just, every major question mark was check. So, and not just finding guys who have been productive, but guys who fit the culture. And I see the question there from Texas Eagle, and I think that is something that you do have to keep in mind. Is the question is basically about, are you worried about disrupting the chemistry? That's something that you have to weigh into the equation. Do I think that the captains in the locker room are phenomenal? The leadership is strong. Like I said multiple times in the after the games, being in the locker room at the Link, it's like you're asking the guys like, what's it like being 4-0 and 5-0 and 6-0? Like, what? Like, come on! Like, it's like until we get to it's not that it doesn't matter until we get to the playoffs, but it does have that sort of element to it because a lot of these guys, the key guys here, your BGs, your Fletchers, your Kelseys, Lane, these guys have all been here and done it before, so it's not new to them. It's not a wide-eyed young team that's like, what's it going to be like going to the playoffs? No, these guys have all experienced it before.
Yeah, and I think you even look at last year and the expectation that even fans have. I mean, we saw how much better this team got. So I won't say we expected 6-0, but we expect to be good. And I think it's awesome because you see it all the way from the staff down. You see, Nick Sirianni throwing the Beat Dallas shirt away in his press conference. You see all that. And it's honestly, it makes me excited as a fan because I know we're not just going into these games saying all we need to do is win this game. It's more than that. It's we need to continuously get better. And I love that answer, to be honest, because I did want to know what Chauncey Gardner was bringing, but it's good to know that, we're bringing something for Chauncey Gardner as well. Like, I feel like we're helping him, like you kind of said, mature. So I think that's awesome. I think that you really can't beat that. You really can't beat that with a young free agent.
You want Philly food? Yeah, let's do it.